Observation number 1. Site cafeteria. Data collector Fahad Hassan. Typist Fahad Hassan. Observation date March 24th, 2019. Observation end March 24th, 2019. Profile of participants. Total number of participants approximately 100. Total number of males approximately 60. Total number of females approximately 40. Other. Many individuals, friend groups, and couples ranging from grades 9 to 12. Summary of notes. Appearance and people who stand out. During an observation at White Oak Secondary School cafeteria, I studied appearance and the people who stood out. For the most part, 80% of the people in the cafeteria wore casual clothes according to the calculations. 20%, which accounted for about 20 people, wore clothes that stood out among the rest, either being more fashionable than the rest or more revealing. It was observed that slightly less than half of that 20% were males wearing clothes that stood out highly in terms of fashion, or wearing loose pants and baggy clothes that did not fit in with the vast majority. The other 10% consisted of girls, with approximately 6% wearing fashionable yet out-of-place outfits, and the other 4% wearing somewhat revealing clothing in terms of visible chest, very short shorts, and other types of clothing not normally accepted in a school environment. Roughly 60% of the total population consisted of males, with 70% of the males being average height, if not less than average. More than 75% of the population were quite loud, with the other 25 either alone or working. Verbal behavior / physical behavior. By observing students at my high school cafeteria, I noticed many different ways in which people interact with one another. Some looked tired, head slightly down. It is my assumption that they were complaining to their friends about school, sleep, or something else. There were others that were laughing hysterically. It is my assumption that they were laughing at the one boy they were all facing, yet he laughed as well, indicating that they were all likely to be friends. There were others that had their laptops open and would say something once every 10 seconds or so, and it is my assumption that they were just talking about work that they were likely to be working on together. There was one girl who did not seem to stop talking, possibly recalling a funny memory or so to her 3 friends, all of which seemed uninterested. It is possible that the 3 friends were simply tired or just did not care. I rarely witnessed females talking to males. It seemed as though males preferred interacting with other males, and the same went for the females, preferring to interact with other females. There seemed to be a division between each table, with students only interacting with people at their table. There were some instances where people in the same table would not interact with each other. It is my assumption that some tables contain different friend groups in one table. Students seemed very friendly to the people in their friend group, yet acted nervous, hostile, or gave no attention whatsoever to the other students nearby. Some males would look up at the other males while they were unaware, possibly due to knowing them and not wanting to know if they're being watched. I witnessed the same occur for the males toward certain females in the cafeteria, watching them when they are not looking, only to turn away just as a girl looks in their general direction. I witnessed females doing the same thing to certain males in other tables. It is my assumption that they were checking out the other students. It was observed that the males were the loudest, often yelling and laughing without realizing or caring that they were disturbing the other tables. An interesting observation was the ethnic female students tended to be quieter compared to the other females, and the same could be observed for the ethnic males. However, the ethnic males were still overall louder and more talkative than the ethnic females. Overall, it seemed that the older grade students were more confident, more talkative, louder, and more comfortable in their environment than the younger, more insecure seeming students who typically remained level-headed. Personal space. After analyzing the grades 9 to 12 students, there were many conclusions that could be drawn regarding personal space. The girls at each table tend to be standing closer to each other than the male students to each other. The guys were most spread out overall, while the girls were in their small groups, typically with no males near their space unless sitting at an adjacent table. The tables where girls did not seem to mind males in their personal space were the ones with the older students, which would make sense as the two sexes were more comfortable being around each other due to being older and more mature than the younger students. Some people sharing the same table sat quite far from each other and made no eye contact, leading to my assumption that they were not friends and quite simply did not know each other. It was obvious which ones were friends, as the ones that seemed more comfortable with body contact were obviously friends rather than strangers or classmates. There were some instances where a male and a female would be sitting intimately close, as if they were about to wrap an arm around the other, leading to my assumption that they were together and likely a couple, with some even observed to be holding hands. Friends seemed to sit side by side, close in terms of personal space, while acquaintances sat on the other side of the table. Regarding people's preference for social space, it was observed that males tend to be sitting closer to girls while distanced from other males. Female students were seen sitting comfortably close to both males and females and would sit on the same side of the table as their close female friends. Human traffic. Over the 60 minutes that the observation took place, there were many individuals that entered and exited the cafeteria, with several students walking in to buy food. The students that would come in to make purchase of food and drinks were typically older students, which makes sense as they possibly had part-time jobs which allowed them to buy whatever they pleased. From all of the single students that entered, the majority of them were older students, while the younger students tended to enter the cafeteria with their friend groups, as it assumed to make them feel more comfortable and less nervous. 3 teachers were also observed to enter the cafeteria at different times. Conclusion. Overall, the participant observation conducted was a success, highlighting the relationships between certain types of students while also providing an insight into how they react in different situations and why some students act the way they do when friends are around or when they are alone. It seemed that many students that were in groups would not be as energetic, confident, or content if they were not in their groups, as those alone or in smaller groups tended to be quieter and more reserved. The friends seemed to bring the best out of all the students and allowed them to be the persons they wanted to be without worrying about how they were being seen. Those seen alone seemed to accept their circumstances and did not seem as content as they should be. This indicates that many of the students, whether in a group or alone, are scared of being alone due to how they might be seen by the other students, with many single individuals not sitting on the tables but rather on the sides where they would be seen less frequently by others. A few students were confident enough to express themselves in whichever way they preferred, most notably the popular students surrounded by friends, such as the popular females and males of their table that talked and laughed loudly, and the couples who had the confidence to sit wherever they liked.